As you can tell, this language, Jamaican Creole, looks different with this type of spelling and sounds different from English.
Yeah.
However, today my focus is not on trying to convince you that Jamaican Creole is a language. Rather, my presentation is to try to help us reflect on some of the biases or negative language attitudes we may have about languages in our own country, Jamaica. As parents and teachers, if we don't reflect on our own attitudes to language, it will be hard to identify our biases, which can in turn retard or prevent our children from being proud bilingual or multilingual speakers, right? I'm so glad Ms. Beckford, shared with us sign language. And Spanish is our official foreign language. We want children who feel unashamed about speaking Jamaican Creole, who are competent with speaking Jamaican English, and who have the ability to code switch between the two languages when necessary. That is our target. How does this relate to reading, you may ask? Well, the late Dennis Craig made the point that while reading for children who come from households which are English speaking have one task, children who speak Jamaican Creole or come from households in which Jamaican Creole is the main language that they're speaking at home, those children have two tasks. And here I have an example for us. The child whose home language is English has to match the sounds to the letters in the words. For example, they must know that in the word pot, the sound P matches to the letter P. The sound O matches to the letter O, and the sound T matches to the letter T to get pot, pot. The child whose language is Jamaican Creole has two tasks. First, he or she must separate the sounds that are Jamaican Creole sounds from the sounds that are Jamaican English sounds. For example, they must know that in the word pot, in Jamaican Creole, they might say pot, right? Or in some really excellent work by Michelle Kennedy, one of the linguists in the team that I will describe later on, the children that she studied, I think they were 3 to 4 years old, they tended to use the word pan for pot. So here you have the children having to differentiate an ah sound from an oh sound, right? So that's the first thing that they have to do, right? Differentiate the two sounds and differentiate even whole words that are more associated with the Jamaican Creole versus words that are associated more with Jamaican English. Then after that separation, they have to match the Jamaican English sounds to the letters. Another example, right, is an example where I was teaching a student how to read, and the student in this example did not know the term grin, the Jamaican English word grin. And thankfully for my work with the professional development of primary school teachers project, it occurred to me, I had to search in my mind for what would be the Jamaican Creole equivalent for the word grin. And the word that came to mind was hinty. And as soon as I said that, immediately the young man understood the meaning of the word bring. Our teachers at the early childhood level, which is basic school to grade 3, therefore should possess skills in language awareness about the two languages, Jamaican Creole and Jamaican English, and how they are similar and different, both at the level of sound and then at the level of structure. So now you might ask, what is this professional development of primary school teachers project, which from here I will call PDPST. So it was a UE initiative at the school, between the School of Education and the Department of Language, Linguistics and Philosophy, specifically linguistics. And there were two.
She's my dog.
All right, I'm going to ask if those who are unaware about their sound, if they can turn it off or mute. Thanks. So it was two linguists and an educator. I was the educator, and we had 2 rounds of workshops, one set in 2015 and another set with even more schools in 2019. And the focus of PDPST was to improve the English language and literacy competency of primary school teachers by training them to be more language aware through linguistic content on the one hand and literacy pedagogy on the other hand. And we had 7 sessions which covered on the linguistic side topics like precision, phonology, morphosyntax, and on the literacy side, we covered literacy strategies such as effective read alouds, using role, audience, form, and topic raft, and other strategies as well. So the PDPST, right, we looked at roles of Jamaican Creole and Jamaican English in society, noticing the similarities and differences between the two languages, and the language biography activity. That is very important because that will be the focus of this paper. And what it was key to this particular project was that we treated Jamaican Creole as a resource and not a hindrance for learning Jamaican English. So the language biography activity. The language biography. Seldom do teachers or educators think about their own language as a teaching tool. Interestingly, this was one of our first PDPST activities. So one of the first activities that we gave to our teachers. And you might ask, well, what is a language biography? It is a document written by a person that traces the historical and current influences of one's coming to speak or write a particular language or languages. And we asked, so examining teachers' language journeys through the short, as you can see, we had 4 broad questions, and I'm not going to read them for you because you can read them yourselves. But examining teachers' language journeys through short but powerful biographies can lead to a broader discussion of language attitudes, both positive and negative, and as well the profile of the English language and literacy teacher, right? This type of reflection is important in bilingual and multilingual contexts. Sometimes we don't even realize the attitudes that we may unknowingly have towards a particular language. And therefore, we can, without realizing it, demonstrate through our attitudes unknowingly disrespect to our students, right? And even our children. It is interesting to note in the PDPST, one of our country, and she noted, and
I know.
and she said this about her students, and this is even at, and I'm going to turn off my video now because of I got the sign of the bandwidth, right? This is important because of her observation as somebody looking from the outside in Jamaica and having spent so many years. She says, despite the strong association between Jamaican English and education, remember our language of instruction is English. She said, I was immediately struck by how much students would use Jamaican Creole among themselves. Right? So sometimes we use it and we don't even realize. And by the insecurities of some of my students about their English language competencies. I have come to see that these insecurities are widespread among non-heritage English speakers in the country. And non-heritage means that they're not from households where English is spoken at home, right? It's mainly Jamaican Creole that is spoken at home. I was also struck by the negative attitudes towards Jamaican Creole, which lived among some of my own colleagues. So this is from one of our PDPST researchers. Moreover, based on UNESCO's Global Education Monitoring Report, of importance is the need for teachers within multilingual contexts, and I would say bilingual contexts like our own, to be trained to teach in two languages and to understand the needs of second language learners. We argue that part of the training for teachers should be to understand the sociolinguistic context in which English is being taught in these post-colonial nations like Jamaica, right? So we once were a British colony, but no longer. And this is where people's attitudes towards the two languages are riddled with positive, sometimes, and negative emotions, and are tied up with identity, as indicated in the quote of my colleague. All right, so I'm going to show you now some select findings from the language biographies of both the teachers, right, and our own language biographies. We decided to write our own, the three of us, as researchers in this PDPST project. And after the second rollout of our workshops in 2019, we also did a kind of post-workshop focus group reflection. And so what I'm going to share with you are some of the findings from both the language biographies and our kind of post-workshop reflections, right? So one finding is that the majority of teachers identify as bilingual, yet most indicate that their dominant language, their stronger language is Jamaican Creole. So 28 of our 34 teachers who participated in, I believe, it might have been the second round of workshops, they say they were bilinguals, and that is similar to us as the three researchers. But interestingly, 27 said that their stronger language was Jamaican Creole, and only 7 said that their dominant language was Jamaican English. And as I'm saying this, I want you to think about that. Do you consider yourself bilingual? And which language do you think is your stronger language? All right. So there are similarities in terms of us and our teachers, and in the workshop that, we identify as bilingual speakers, yet for us, our dominant language was Jamaican English, simply because of the different households from which we came. Well, 2 out of 3, right? As I said, one of our linguists is from another country. So before I move on, so bilingualism is more accepted now in Jamaica than previous decades. And this can be attributed to the contribution of the arts, music, theater, literature, poetry, in the spread of Jamaican Creole in hitherto previously excluded place spaces, and the work of Caribbean linguists, including those two on the PDPST project. And in fact, Dr. Michelle Kennedy both have written about Creole languages, and Dr. Michelle Kennedy has written a book, what do Jamaican children speak? And I also want to mention the work of the Jamaica Language Unit, very important. And so people have a growing pride about their mother tongue, Jamaican Creole. And I would say that this is a useful mindset to have and a welcome shift as we live in a global world where it is an asset to speak more than one language. Thinking of ourselves as bilingual or multilingual when we think of sign language, learning Spanish or French, should help us to embrace both Jamaican Creole and Jamaican English and prepare us for the global world. A second finding from our reflection and the language biography is overcoming the misconception that we have that English is foreign. We have our own English, it's not foreign. And it is a language that is, because of this misconception, many of us, when we want to speak our best English, sometimes we put on an accent. And that is a little bit different from the children, the TV generation or the YouTube generation and their own accent. We can speak about that at the end in a discussion section. Part of this bias of thinking that English is not our own arises out of the post-colonial context in which cultures collide. Do we embrace one language and dismiss the other language? My argument is no, we embrace both. English is also our own. This language has been in Jamaica for 369 years. If you count from 1655, when Britain won over Jamaica from the Spanish, till now, 2024. Let us take advantage of this historical fact and help our boys to see English as a language that is not just for girls and sissies, right? How can we as teachers do that? I think we can show our boys models of men who use both languages competently. And I think, right, you may agree or disagree, but I think Usain Bolt is a good example. Research conducted by one of our colleagues now in Barbados, Dr. Tanisha Morris, also shows the need for literacy and early childhood teachers in their classroom to allow children to choose a variety of books, right? Because sometimes we, what is the word? We kind of reflect our own biases and our own insecurities in terms of what boys should or should not read. And in her study, the girls were allowed much more latitude to choose the books that they wanted to read. But there was much more policing of boys wanting to read certain books. So my question is, what if a boy wants to read a book about baking? Maybe he will be the next top chef, right? So that's something for us to think about. Reading is fun, a fun task for all children, and it's not a form of discipline, right? We need to get beyond that in Jamaica, move beyond, go read a book. To come and read with me. It's a fun activity. The third language attitude, negative language attitude, is embracing Jamaican Creole. Is the belief that embracing Jamaican Creole means that we're going to lose out on Jamaican English. This could have been clearer, but embracing JC was going to be at the expense of learning English, right? And when we were doing our post-workshop reflection, one of us said, we were successful, hopefully, in bringing teachers to the understanding that bilingualism is possible and desirable, and that knowing Jamaican Creole is not at the expense of knowing Jamaican English. What does this mean for us as teachers. First, I believe students do need to hear a lot of English spoken, as well as to see English in their reading and listening materials in the classroom. For many of our students who come from households where Jamaican Creole is largely spoken, right? The parents are expecting that in the classroom, they're going to be instructed in English and they're going to hear. That is where they're going to learn more about English, right? Yet I would say some of the reading materials should contain both Jamaican Creole and Jamaican English to support contrastive analysis, right? Where we can show them the differences in the two languages in terms of sounds, sentence structure, vocabulary, and certain idiomatic expressions. For example, green teeth versus chin teeth versus grin, right? This is where I think knowing the Jamaican language unit Cassidy spelling system, and I'm going to show you, is beneficial in the classroom. For example, teachers can write, and I should have written it here, but teachers can write boy, and I'm going to write it in the chat. If you have your students, for example, not being able to hear the difference of boy versus boy, if we can use the Cassidy system to write this, and I've put it in the chat, BWAI versus BOY. Because sometimes students don't necessarily possess that auditory discrimination, that ability to hear the two different sounds. But we can provide them with that visual discrimination to see the differences in the spelling of these two different languages. All right. So, and I'm going to show you towards the end the JLA Cassidy system. Now, the fourth language attitude, and this is a controversial one, is the feeling by parents, a lot of parents, and one of the teachers said it, the feeling that children should not speak Jamaican Creole. They don't like to hear children speaking Jamaican Creole. And I will confess, I was guilty of that. Right? So while I cannot tell parents what to do, I would encourage us to watch ourselves as children are great imitators. So this feeling of children shouldn't speak Jamaican Creole, we don't like to hear them. This was reflected in the comments in the language biography of some, not just one, of the teacher participants who spoke about being chastised for not speaking, quote unquote, properly as a child, meaning they're not speaking in Jamaican English since they were caught speaking Jamaican Creole. But guess what? They were caught because that's what they're hearing their parents or the older adults speaking. The converse, of course, is that speaking Jamaican Creole is speaking improperly. But why not model for our children, for our students, code switching rather than telling them to speak properly all the time? The children are speaking the language that they're hearing around them. So my charge to parents, let's translate without the attitude. Maybe we can label the languages. What you're saying was patois Jamaican Creole, and this is how you would say it in Jamaican English, right? Are we correcting in ways that will cause our children to be silent, right, in the classroom or not speak? Or are we correcting them in ways that will help them to code switch between the two languages confidently, right? So that is something for us as parents and as teachers to consider. So here's a summary of the findings, both in terms of new development and in terms of some of our negative language attitudes. The new development is that more persons identify as being bilingual. and I think that that is a wonderful and welcome shift to open our minds to thinking about being bilingual, multilingual, because that's where the globe is going. The second finding is speaking Jamaican English means speaking with an accent, and that's not true. We have our own English. It's been here for 369 years. And another negative attitude, embracing Jamaican Creole in education settings in a structured way will be at the expense of learning English. No, it's not. Many of the projects, including ours, PDPST, is about using Jamaican Creole as a resource to empower students to embrace their language and to be competent in speaking Jamaican English. And the other bias that we picked up is the dislike of hearing children speak Jamaican Creole, right? As I said, I can't tell parents what to do or not to do, but what I can do is encourage them to translate without the attitude. So here are three broad implications. So the first one is, can non-native speakers of English teach English? Remember, we said that most of the teachers in the project identified themselves as bilingual and that their dominant language, their stronger language, was actually Jamaican Creole. And the answer is yes. Research says yes, but with the right type of training. Right? So with the right type of training, yes. A non-native speaker, someone, let's bring it closer to home, someone who is a teacher who identifies as Jamaican Creole, but their dominant language is who identifies as bilingual, sorry, but whose dominant language is Jamaican Creole, can become competent in teaching English. So there is need for a shift and strengthening in teacher training institutions and in-service professional development training as well. So what does this mean? I think our teacher training institutions must not shy away from introducing student teachers to the JLU Cassidy spelling system or orthography, and should also teach contrastive analysis between the two languages as is necessary, right? There are similarities between Jamaican English and Jamaican Creole, but there are differences. So where there are differences, that is where the contrastive analysis is useful, right? You can't contrast where there are similarities, right? By showing students visually the different spelling systems, teachers can better assist students who are having trouble hearing the differences in sound between the two languages. All right, so by doing contrastive analysis, another example, one can show differences in structure between the two languages. For example, in Jamaican English, we say one loaf or a slice of bread versus one bread, right? So there you have the difference in structure in terms of measure phrases used in Jamaican English, slice, a loaf, a cup of tea, versus in Creole, you don't have those measure phrases, 1 pound of this, and so on and so forth. Then the third implication, I would say, is that just to encourage parents to be mindful and intentional about language use and to translate without the attitude, right? And sometimes our children may come from homes where Jamaican English is largely spoken. They might have friends whose their household is largely Jamaican Creole speaking. And so we have to watch when those friends come over our own biases, or they'll be forever quiet, right? And so in cases like that, as I said, we can translate without the attitude or accept them the way they speak, in certain instances. So I'm going to conclude, but before I conclude, I really wanted you to look at, and let me see if I can share. I'm going to stop sharing, and I want to share, right. This is Am I sharing properly? This is a Wikipedia article. I know they always say, don't use Wikipedia, but it can be helpful. And at the bottom, they have references. So, but you can also go to the Department of Language, Linguistics, and Philosophy and find out more. But way at the bottom, they have the JLU standardized the Jamaican alphabet. And the Jamaican alphabet, it's really easy to do the spelling once you get the hang of it, right? And so they have the short vowel sounds. And I love that they've gotten rid of the letter C. So the K sound is K, right? Simple. They have the long vowel sounds. And what they did, again, simplified. You just double the vowel for the long vowel sounds. E as in T. So T is T-I-I. All, ball, shoot, two W's. And then what's different, the diphthongs right here, cake, grow, bite, cow, right? And this, so this is helpful. And then the nasal vowels, right? You have here and the consonants. All right. And then you have different references. And here is a lovely handout. Spelling Jamaican the Jamaican way that you can download for yourselves. So I'm going to stop sharing that and I'm going to put in, right. So thank you, Michael. I am using the JLU Cassidy system because the benefit of that is that it's consistent and I can go to it and I can consistently spell one word. I won't say how Professor Callan calls the other type of spelling, right? I'm going to play nice. So the other I wanted to also share with you the another video. Okay, sorry. I'm going to share this link in the chat for everybody, control copy. And I want to be able to share it. Right. And this is 4 minutes. So I'm not going to share it. And this is how to read and write Jamaican. And this is through Wycliffe Caribbean Partners in the Bible translation. They did the Jamaican New Testament. Right. And so I'm going to put this in the chat. All right. So that you can see. And they have other videos. This is just one of 3. So let me go back and conclude. And so in conclusion, language defines who we are and how we are perceived by others, especially in bilingual or multilingual contexts, where there are power dynamics attached to the languages in use, right? The power dynamics attached to language are almost universal. So in Jamaica, we might think of one language as better than the other. This happens also as one of our linguists who has lived in Jamaica, it's from another country. She shared of her own country, right? So it's universal that we have these stereotypes and biases, but especially in post-colonial context, as in Jamaica, the Caribbean, it intersects with social class.
Conclusion.
And sometimes race, sometimes color. Right? So in such contexts, equipping students with the language awareness of speaking English competently and having the confidence to decide if they want to speak in Creole or not is empowering. Indeed, we learned how important it is to be sensitive to the questions in our project and doubts that teacher participants have about our PDPST approach. So we had to tread carefully because of these very biases, these sometimes negative language attitudes. It is important to build trust and to encourage workshop participants that bilingualism, remember the theme, multilingualism, is possible and desirable, and that knowing Jamaican Creole is not at the expense of knowing and being literate in Jamaican English. Indeed, respect is due to our two languages. And I will end there, and I'll be open to comments and questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doc, for empowering me. I am one who enjoys using the mother tongue, and your presentation this afternoon has empowered me to go forward to continue using the mother tongue, as I am one who believes it is the tongue that is going to curb the literacy, the numeracy, and all the other receipt problems that Jamaica has at this time. I thank you for enlightening us and empowering us and shedding light that there is nothing wrong with our mother tongue. It is a tool that we can use to take us from where we are to where we need to be. At this time, we're going to open the floor for 5 minutes. Anyone who has any question they would like to be answered or any comments they'd like to share with Doc, at this moment, you can raise your hand, use the raise hand feature, and we will take you in the order that you raise your hand. All right, we have Miss Debbie Watson, then Miss Jennifer Clark. So go ahead, Miss Debbie.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to the presenter. Nice presentation. But I'm looking at the fact that, well, I teach grade 3 now, 1 to 3, and I'm an early childhood educator. I taught an 6-year-olds, 5, 6-year-olds. So I have a lot of experience in that area. What I notice nowadays is that the children, they are coming to school not speaking our patois. They are more speaking like the cartoon characters. That has been happening for about coming now out of COVID. I noticed these children are not really relating to our mother tongue or mother language. Even we had Miss Lou the other day, and we were making a presentation of some of the patois that Miss Lou, or dialect that she would use. And some of these children don't even know. They don't even know Piniwali. They don't know a lot. Short. They don't know a lot of what our language or mother tongue, what it is all about. And so that is my concern. They're saying that they're coming in the classroom with that, but it's a change now. It's a different dispensation. The children are not really coming in our classroom with our mother tongue. They are coming with some kind of cartoon, talking up in their nostril, some offspring of the American dialect, something like that. So that's a concern for me when it comes on to really telling them about Jamaican dialect and all of that. What is your view on that?
Okay, I'm so glad that you mentioned it. I kind of mentioned it slightly that about the TV accent, right? So I'm glad that you brought that to the fore. So in that case, one of the things, there are two ways that I would answer that. One is that we can share with the children that we have our own English that doesn't need to have an accent. We have our own Jamaican accent. The second thing is that but then you see, children are great imitators. So if they're spending a lot of time listening to the TV, they are going to imitate that particular accent. So then so you can talk to them about how we pronounce certain words in Jamaican English. And as you're doing very well, can share with them some of the vocabulary of Jamaican Creole. As you said, the pinewali, and how would you use this word instead of that? So you can do, so it would almost be like contrastive analysis in reverse when it is necessary, right? So that's how I would approach it. As children grow older, they get more exposed to the Jamaican Creole in the wider society. So I wouldn't become too impatient with them. But I hear what you are saying, and it is not, you're not the first person to mention it to me, but that's a very thoughtful question. But don't be too impatient with them, and continue to do what you're doing by exposing them to our rich language culture with Jamaican English and Jamaican Creole, some other words, right? So they might, yeah, I would leave it at that. It's not fully answering your question, but and maybe I'll end by saying that is something now that it would be interesting for us, and especially the linguists, to research. So thanks for that question.
Jennifer Clark, it's your turn.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Happy to be on. Excellent presentation. I'm going to be extremely brief. This has been a very eye-opening exercise for me. More so because I remember in my earlier days when I was traveling, I believe that I speak Jamaican English, but I love the Creole. And when I'm overseas, they would say I don't sound like a Jamaican. And I never really understood what that meant until in my more mature years. And you even bring in some more light to it. So I'm really appreciative of this exercise. Also, I'm very impatient. I'm one of those persons who are very impatient with my son. So he goes up, then him go prep school, and then him go the primary school where they speak the English language and so on and so. But then when he's in high school, the papa kicks in, and it's annoying because yeah, it just don't sound right. It just have that little, and I'm just going to be brutally frank, it just have that little backwardness in its pronunciation. And like you said, we need to exercise some more patience, which I'm short on. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the organizers for this presentation. I have a lot of research to do. I'm big on this. And I think what we need to do when we're dealing with the kids is to be creative and to be creative in our approach, in our learning, in our teaching styles, and transition them into what we want them to be portraying or speaking or whatever it is that we want them to do. Because they're sponge, so it's easier down there than when they're up there. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was Jennifer, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So what I wanted to know, your high school son, is it that he's speaking Patois with a kind of foreign accent, or is it that he's speaking Patois and you're just annoyed by it?
All right. So he's speaking Patois. I don't even recognize it, to be honest. Okay. It just sounds off. It just sounds really off. So he's now, well, just since about 2 weeks ago now, he's in university. He's at UTech now. So I'm waiting to see, what is going to happen at this level. Seeing that everybody now is coming together and, will do the reasoning and the analysis and without the so heavily patwa, weighted patwa then.
Right. So we'll see. I mean, the aim is bilingualism, being competent in both. So you can manage yourself in any sphere, and having that ability to choose, because that is important. I can decide which language I want to speak, when and where, and I can do so confidently and competently. But thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that.
Just one other thing. I was worried about even him passing English, but he did excellently. So I'm
There you go. There you go.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Even though you let me down, I wanted you to answer me just as Peppa Pig would have answered. And so we now move on to Marcia. Marcia, please open your microphone. All right, Marcia seems not to be ready. Tamara, it's your turn. Carlin Brown.
Good evening, everyone. I must echo the sentiment of everyone, including Mr. Kennedy, that this was a beautiful presentation, and it's just confirmation for me to embrace my mother tongue. Because a lot of times we are told that, they want us to stay away from it because they do business in English, so we are to do everything in English. But I find that a lot of our students are able to code switch, and I would make reference to my own daughter, that when she was in primary school, I love to speak my mother tongue. Her father doesn't speak it at all. He speaks English. And so there's always a tug of war as to who she's going to sound like. Anyway, I remember one day I was going to pick her up from school, and I called her on the phone to tell her to come out to the gate. And she responded and said, "What did you say, mommy? I'm to come by the gate?" I said, "Yes, come out to the gate, because I don't want to come into the schoolyard." She did not hang up the phone. And then I heard, "Me have to go to gate now, my mother come, me have to go to gate." I have never heard her speak that language before. When she came in the car, I said nothing at all. It was maybe 2 weeks after I asked her about it. And she said, I have to sound like the other children, or they're going to think I feel different. I don't have a problem with her with English because she code switch very well. What I do in the classroom is when I hear them speak, I would ask them, like, how do we say that another way? And so I know that they're getting the benefit of both. When I travel overseas, I'm comfortable speaking my tongue because I know those around me don't understand it. But I know what I'm talking about. Who is with me will know the Jamaican language with me, and I can also code switch back into Jamaican English. So I am glad for this confirmation that nothing wrong with it. I feel with it, and we must embrace it. Thank you so much for the presentation.
You're welcome. And that labeling of the languages are important. That labeling is important. All right, how do we say that in Jamaican English? Or how do we say that in English? You just said that in Creole. So by labeling them, you get them to think, oh, it's a different language, right? So that's excellent. Thanks for sharing that.
And that there are just certain things that you want to express, that English is not colorful enough for you to express it. So that child wanting to let the other kids know that, hey, my mom is here. It won't sound the same way if I say, hey, mom is here, I have to go. Or, when she switches to that part was, and my mother there, I have to go now, It's so colorful. It's a beautiful thing. And we must continue to encourage our students, or even our own kids, to not be afraid to use it, but to use it appropriately.
All right.
Marcia, I don't see a microphone for her. Valsia, are you ready?
Oh, yes. Good evening. Afternoon. I could stop myself. I forgot the time and I joined very late. But I have a question. I see some attempt from the university to standardize, especially spelling of Creole of Patois. And
Right.
I'm concerned about that because the variety in our country when it comes to patois. Yeah, we can understand the spoken language fairly well wherever we are. But when we start to write, it becomes a really different language to even those of us who speak it. And
Correct.
and I
Yes, understood.
right, and I think that might cause some confusion for especially, if we're teaching it and those who are expected to learn it. And that's what I wanted you to address. How would we be able to, you know, adjust that? Because I was thinking it would be better if we use the pattern that is similar to the Jamaican English, the standard Jamaican English, to write patois rather than to come up with something totally different in our attempt to stand.
All right. So I am going to respectfully differ from your point of view. Here is why. I'm going to show you. So learning the spelling system of the JLU, it takes a little time. But once you figure it out, and there's material online that can help us. The benefit of a consistent spelling system is that you can consistently spell. Or let me put it another way. The benefit of having one spelling system is that you can consistently spell a word, right? And so it does take a little time to get accustomed to it. I'm trying to find the slide. Right, here it is. But no, that's not where I want to go. Where am I? I want to go to, let me stop sharing. I want to go to the there it is. I think so. Right. From current slide. The benefit of using one system of spelling is that it's not one teacher in Hanover doesn't spell brother or one way, another teacher doesn't spell sister another way. The more, part of the reason why you have this different system is that you want to differentiate the language because students sometimes don't have the cannot hear the differences in the language. For example, let's take the word respect. In English, the word is respect. And therefore, just shout out to the literacy persons. When you're doing the diagnostic test and the student says respect, you do need to point it out that in English, the word is respect, right? So having a consistent way of spelling helps to differentiate the two languages than us saying that it's just patois is just a version of English, right? So I'm going to kindly beg to differ from your point of view. Because when you show a child this, right, and you read it for them, they can hopefully they should be able to say, well, it looks different, right? And it sounds different. So yes, as in any language, there are regional varieties. Up to 2 weeks ago, I was watching a YouTube video where there were varieties of Englishes who speak, somebody who speaks like a kind of Scottish English that I could barely understand, who speaks the received pronunciation like the Queen, and who speaks maybe another type. So they similarly with patois, there are different types of varieties. But if you settle on one for like, say for example, you call this the standard variety of Creole, then it makes that comparison between Jamaican Creole as a language different from Jamaican English as another language. So that's what I would say. So even the word anything versus anything, that difference between the t and the th, right? That sound is not in Creole, right? It's more of a t. All right. So I'm going to stop there. You may not agree with me, but that is my response. All right. Any more questions?
Thank you for that, Doc. We only have Marcia, but Marcia doesn't seem to select her microphone when she logged on. So we don't have anyone other than Marcia. So we're gonna move right along. Thank you very much, Doc.
You're welcome.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Is that
Deborah.
Deborah? There's a Deborah Richards Taylor?
Yes.
Or
I think I had my hand up a long time, except probably the reaction button didn't select. But from the very ending, I put my hand up because I sat here feeling so satisfied and empowered. And I'm thinking if this was divinely led, because prior to hearing the theme for Literacy Day, when my team gathered, we decided that we were going to look at poetry. And of course, because it was pretty close in link with Miss Lou's day, we decided to look at Miss Lou's poetry and begin to talk about the Creole. And to hear this afternoon, the emphasis on it, I am really delighted. One thing you touch on, though, that quite pleasing is the attitude. I really, listening around and observing, I realized that teachers' attitude towards the language are a big part to play in how we communicate it and how we empower our children. You know, and even with us using it to the children or with the children, we ought always to make the transition. And most times I observe that we don't do that. We just say it and leave it there, or we just listen to the students say it and leave it there. But
right.
I am so happy to know that this is taking front page more and more and helping our children to appreciate our language, because this is part of us. And when I listened to the last speaker, a few of the other persons, I asked the question to myself, what makes a language a language?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Looking at the system of spelling, it does having a one system of spelling or the structure add to the status of making this type of speech a language.
Yep.
Okay, just want to know.
Yes,
But
it does. Because then, if, for example, so let me give you an example. Oftentimes, we don't think that, well, there's so many ways that I can respond, but I'm going to respond quickly because I figure time is up. But for my PhD in 2010, I decided rather than spell Creole kind of similarly to English, and some literary authors do that, right? So I'm not going to not that. Some literary authors do that. So that is possible. But for my scholarly work, I chose to use the JLU Cassidy system. And then underneath it, what I did was to translate it so that if you go online and look at my thesis, it's about literacy and the grade 4 literacy test. You will see where I'm translating students, how students speak. And that now makes that language, that is serious business. This is my PhD, but I want to be genuine to how students really speak. And I want to share to the world that this language is a different language and uses a particular spelling system. And it worked, and they accepted it. Once I had the English translation underneath it, they could read it. So yes, having that consistent spelling system does add to that kind of does help to make that language even more official. Put
Yeah,
a different
put it
word.
that way. Okay.
Yeah.
And just lastly, that Bible verse. Incidentally, I was a group of students yesterday, and I used that said Bible verse, and it's one of the Bible verse that I always share with every group of students that I teach. Now I can share it the practical way.
Yeah. and see what they see their reaction, one, and what their comments are.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, we are going to move on from this segment. Thank you very much, Doc, for accommodating the questions and for providing adequate answers. At this time, colleagues, I am going to hand over to our president, Ms. Tasmonica Beckford, as she will now lead us into the business session.
Good afternoon, everyone. You can type your
Afternoon, Madam President.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, I can see that everyone was quite engaged in the presentation here. I too would like to say thank you to Dr. Lewis Holcomb for her excellent presentation and the excellent manner in which she handled herself with the questions that our members of the audience would have asked. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for participating. Now, the other segment of today's proceedings will be quite short. We will start with a handing over of presidency from myself to President-elect Janice Cunningham. And after that, we will just she will make her speech, and then following that, we will end with a vote of thanks by Mrs. Loza. So we won't be very long. You are invited to stay for this handover ceremony. All right, so let me give my speech. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honor and a bittersweet moment as I address you today at this juncture in our presentation, in our meeting. As we gather here in this virtual space for this business meeting of the Jamaica Literacy Association, I reflect on the remarkable journey we've had over the past year. Our collective efforts, passion, and dedication, have driven the mission of promoting literacy across Jamaica and internationally by way of some events that took place this past year. First and foremost, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to the outgoing board members. Your commitment, hard work, and unwavering support have been instrumental in our achievements. Together, we have organized impactful programs. One to note was our parenting webinar, November 26, 2023, and our presenter was Dr. Louis Fulcom. Fostered partnerships with stakeholders like the Jamaica Library Service, Kingston Bookshop, Book Zone, and we reached countless individuals on Facebook and YouTube, spreading the light of literacy far and wide. Each one of you has contributed to our success, and for that, I am profoundly grateful. Thank you for your invaluable service. The teams that worked really hard to get their activities done included the fundraising committee and the professional development committee. We have always had a strong presence at the Jamaica Teachers Association conference held in August of each year. 2023 was no exception, as the booth was booming with activities, and I would like to use this opportunity to thank all the members who contributed to the success of the booth. Mrs. Loza, Mrs. Harris, and Miss Cunningham manned the booth for the days that the conference was held. Want to say thank you as well to Miss Marcia Purcell and Miss Cunningham for also manning the booth this year. As I pass the torch to the new leadership, I am filled with optimism and confidence, and I am pleased to congratulate the members of the incoming board for agreeing to serve this year. Your selection to these esteemed positions is a testament to your dedication, vision, and the trust that our members and the president have placed in you. I have no doubt that you will lead this association with the same passion and determination that has brought us to where we are today. To the new president, Ms. Janice Cunningham, I offer my warmest congratulations. Your leadership, insight, and enthusiasm are well recognized, and I am confident that you will steer this association towards even greater accomplishments. The challenges ahead are numerous, but so are the opportunities. Together, with the support of your capable team, you will continue to drive our mission forward, fostering a culture of literacy that empowers individuals and communities across Jamaica. As we embark on this new chapter, I wish the association and the new team a year filled with productivity, innovation, and collaboration. May you work together seamlessly, building on the foundations laid and striving towards our common goals with renewed vigor. Remember, the strength of our association lies in our unity and shared purpose. By working as a cohesive team, there is no limit to what we can achieve. In closing, let us celebrate our successes, embrace the opportunities ahead, and remain steadfast in our commitment to literacy. Together, we will continue to make a difference, one word, one book, and one person at a time. Thank you. I wish you all a prosperous and fulfilling year ahead. I now invite our new president, Ms. Janice Cunningham, to speak to you. Thank you. Lady Cunningham.
Good afternoon, everyone. And especially our guest speaker, Dr. Fulcom. You have really been an excellent presenter. And you are now honorary member of our association because you collaborate with us so often. That makes you so much a part of us. Good afternoon again, everyone. And I really, really take this as a pleasure to be asked to lead this august body, the Jamaica Literacy Association. Yes, we gather here today with a sense of purpose, and that purpose, part of that purpose has been fulfilled by our presenter and her topic. Really, really enlightening. We will continue to promote literacy in all senses. Its literacy itself plays a pivotal role in shaping the future of our nation and indeed the world. And yes, communicating in different languages will certainly propel us on. Now, the theme for this year, literacy, celebrating promoting multilingual education, literacy for mutual understanding and peace, will certainly be infused in all our activities. But more so, Dr. Folcom, we will take on the aspect of our language being emphasized in our teaching and learning experience with our children. We pledge to make this year a year with many activities, focusing especially on the language. And we will engage all our stakeholders. And of course, Dr. Folcom, that includes you, because you are now a part of our body. We will uphold the value of literacy throughout this year. I urge all of us to work together to promote literacy programs as we create inclusive learning environments island-wide. And yes, emphasis must be on our language. Let us all champion the cause of literacy for mutual understanding and peace. It certainly will create the positive change we want in our society, in our world. Language, as you said, Dr. Folcom, defines who we are and how we are perceived by others. And of course, your presentation has propelled us into emphasizing the fact that we as Jamaicans are bilingual. We need to embrace our Jamaican Creole. And as I think it was Rex Nettleford in his book that talk about our smuddiness, we, yes, are going to embrace that and show the smuddy we are. So we are going to take on that aspect of our language. Together we can do it, because we, as Jamaican, as literacy leaders, will emphasize, as you said, our language. Let us all work together. And I'm imploring all those here who are not a part of our association to check in our link. I think Miss Beckford has put the email address. You may email us for information on how to become a part of our association. And this year, especially, we are delving into our theme to make literacy more wholesome in our society. Blessings all as we work together for a very good year. Moderator, Mr. Anthony.
Yes, Madam President. We move now into the naming of the other board members, and this, I think, is your task.
So I'm using two devices because the laptop itself will not allow me to use the camera. So I'm using two.
All right, while Madam President gets herself together, I'm going to share a poem that looks at the theme, and this was sent in by board member Itina Williams. So we're gonna share this poem by one of our members. Peace, languages shining bright. Shores to places near. Share this dream we hold so dear. Through language we'll find a way to understand and build friendships to stay. My brother's hopes and my sister's prayers will take always with peace inside. Just speak Spanish, French, or even Creole. Friends will be born. Only true peace resides. For literacy is not just and speak is the weed. Education is a reflection. Peace, respect, and even.
We're not hearing clearly, Mr. Kennedy.
I just realized, so I'm going to share now with someone.
Pathway to peace through language and literacy, Empress Mina. In every corner, let words take flight. A world of languages shining bright. From distant shores to places near, let's share this dream we hold so dear. Through every language, we'll find a way to understand and build friendships to stay. My brother's hopes and my sister's fears will take flight. In different words, yet always with peace inside. I see a world where all can learn and thrive, where languages cross paths and words come alive. Arabic, Spanish, French, or even Creole, together we'll make a difference and be bold. But we sigh for those who are left outside the door. Their voices hushed, their dreams are no more. Let's teach them that being multilingual can cross divides and bring them to a place where only true peace resides. For literacy is more than just to read and speak. It's lifting up the faint, the marginalized, and the weak. Education is a ray of light that will guide the way to mutual peace, respect, and even a brighter day. So rise up, nations, speak up in every tongue. Let your voices echo with a call to old and young, to break the silence and promote multilingual education and embrace literacy as the pathway to peace in every nation.
All right, you can go ahead now, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. So we'll name the board members for this academic year, 2024-2025. And it's basically the same members who would have been on for last year. We have and I'll just call the name without titles. So we have Dulcie Townsend, Tasmonica Beckford, Arlene Edwards, Beverly Harris, Estella Campbell, Linda Lauser, Ione Facey, Phyllis Anderson, Laverne Johnson, Karen Young Miller, Jean Brown, Itina Williams, Anthony Kennedy, and myself. So we will be the board members for this academic year, and we'll work as a group without naming committees. All of us will share the tasks of carrying on the association business this year. So I look forward to us working together, collaborating with our outside stakeholders and our honorary membership. Thanks a lot, members, those who worked last year, and we really look forward to a very active year this year when we truly promote our Jamaican Creole within our schools and elsewhere. Blessings. Mr.
Thank you very
Moderator.
much, Madam President. At this time, we invite long-serving member, Ms. Linda Lauser, to do our vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was trying to open my camera, but it's not coming on at all. So I'm sorry. You won't be able to see me. No, it has been a lovely afternoon. Let me see if it, no, I'm not going to get it. Can you hear me, everyone?
We're hearing you, Mrs. Lauser.
All right.
We're hearing you.
It has been a lovely afternoon, and it is Sunday, and you all could have been relaxing or making preparation for the coming work week. However, you chose to be here at this event. I want to thank you for your choice. First of all, I want to thank God for his enabling power, for without him, we can do nothing. To our guest speaker, Dr. Louis Fulcrum, I hope I said it right, Fulcrum, who was so entertaining as she addressed us on the theme. Doc, we know you're a busy lady. We thank you for the high priority you gave to our organization when you decided to come. We note your extensive training and experience, hence your excellent presentation. Doc, we got more than a mouthful. Too much to chew on, I would say. We will not forget, however, the language situation and learning to read, the two tasks the Creole child has, the skills our teachers should have to teach our children, PDPST approach, and the language biography. We need to demonstrate this. We should not demonstrate disrespect to our children's language. We should understand the needs of second language learners, and Doc, many things that we knew were further reinforced. And the one thing that caught me, English is not foreign. And we need to get over our biases and our attitude. Your address was easy to understand, Doc, very informative, well researched, and you even shared some of that research with us. Not every speaker could hold an audience at this hour on a Sunday afternoon. Your address was well received, and we thank you. Many other persons contributed to the success of this event. Our moderator, Mr. Kennedy, ably took us through the program. A job well done, sir. We thank you. We thank Mrs. Johnson for opening with such an inspiring prayer. It set the tone for the afternoon. No wonder we had such a fabulous time. Our newly installed president welcomed us warmly. No one could have done so on a rainy afternoon. No one could have done that on this rainy afternoon, but you welcomed us warmly. We were grateful for the icebreaker and greeting from our beloved immediate past president. We really needed a break, and we learned some sign language. We also thank you, Madam, for your comprehensive introduction to the JLA and for selling the association to everyone and for the overview of the year and for passing the torch to Mrs. Cunningham, hence completing the installation exercise. Our beloved Mrs. Itina Williams introduced our guest speaker. You did this well, Madam. We thank you. We also thank you for sending the poem. Please thank the poet for sharing it with us. What would we have done without Mr. Andre Morrison, who graciously operated the platform and facilitated this meeting that we had? Thank you, sir. Last but not least, we tend to forget the planners when we have events like these. Much work was done to plan it. We thank the Jamaica Literacy Association board members for putting this webinar together. And if I've forgotten anyone, I'm going to ask that you please find some place in the thanks that I've said and accept your thanks. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for everything. We had really a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you very much, Miss Lauza. We can't say it too much. It was a wonderful afternoon, an excellent afternoon, a bonus afternoon, and we look forward to more forums like these in the near future as we continue to promote literacy in Jamaica, in our society, and literacy across the world. At this time, before we go, IPP Beckford is going to share with us a poem. So please bear with us for another minute or two. And after that, following IPP's poem presentation, I bid you farewell, walk good, and may the good follow you. Thank you.
All right, this is an audio clip, so just let me know if you're hearing it. I'm gonna go ahead and play it now.
Let me see your face.
We're going to start with part 1, then we're going to sing part 2, then we're going to go back to part 1, and then go to part 3. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. We believe to succeed. We believe to succeed. Again, we believe to succeed. We believe to succeed. If you want to be a farmer, you must read. If you want to be a doctor, you must read. If you want to be a influencer, you must read. If you want to be a driver, you must read. We believe to succeed. We believe to succeed. We believe to succeed. Policemen, read. Nurses, doctors, read. Pastors, read. Politicians, read. You want to be training? You must read. Read, read, succeed. Read, read, succeed. Read, read, succeed.
All right, so that's it, guys. It was lovely being here. Lovely having you. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Blessings one, blessings all.
I'll just play from top again. while persons are exiting.
Ready? Yes. So we're gonna start. We're gonna start with part 1, then we're going to do part 2, then we're going to go back to part 1, and then go to part 3. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and read to lead to succeed. Read to lead to succeed. Read to lead. Read to lead to succeed. If you want to be a farmer, you must read. If you're a lawyer or a doctor, you must read. Social media influencer, you must read. If you want to be a driver, you must read. Read to lead to succeed. 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 Pilots, read. Policemen, read. Nurses, architects, accountants, read. Pastors, read. Politicians, read. If you want to be trending, you must read. Read to lead to succeed. Read to lead to succeed. Read to lead to succeed. Read to lead to succeed.
Come after you stand so long. Not even little language, boy, not even little twang. And your sister work 1 week with American and she talks so sweet now that we have the juice, you understand. Why you couldn't improve yourself and you get so much pay? You spend 6 months of foreign and come back ugly same way. Not even a drapes trousers. Not a pass the rhythm coat. Why not even a gold teeth, not a gold chain around your throat? Suppose I lost my pass, go introduce it to a stranger as my lamented son that lately come from America. Them would have laugh after me, boy, I couldn't tell them so. Them would have said me liar was a spent time a moko. Don't back and say me, boy, you talk too much, shut up your mouth. I don't know how you and your father are going to make it out. If you want to please him, make him think you bring back something new. You always call him Pa. This evening when him comes, say Pooh. Say Pooh. But you can't win, you know. Because if you come back to hey, everybody say, I wish you are going with. Like the boy will come back from England and talk soup. What wrong with Mary Dryfoot, boy? Them gal got him for mock. And since I meet him the other night, the boy give me a shock. Me tell him same aunt and him cousin them saying howdy. Me ask him how I'm getting on, him say Ujola. Me start to feel so sorry for the poor bad lucky soul. Me think him go foreign land, go catch bad foreign coal. Me say him had a bad sore throat. But when him chat go on, me find out that his foreign twang the boy was a put on. For me notice that him answer to nearly all me say was actually hot. Oh yeah. And then sitting there. Me get a joke. The girl them laugh. Hear the boy. Ho ho. I'm sure you got the ball to dash out of the cinema. Same time I get in a temper. Me had a boy cure out. I said, don't chat to me with no hot pity in your mouth. Him stand up like him stunted in here now. How so? I'm sure I really just don't understand you, actually. I said, you understand me. Are you near cousin Scoop? You always visit Nana kitchen and get laugh at gungo soup. And now all you can say is actually. What about that? What happened to them sweet Jamaica joke you used for pop? He get back and walk through the door with head in the air. The girl them ball out after him. Not going what? Oh dear. Yes, my dear.